So you know how today, if something doesn't work or if something upsets us, we are quick to get in our feels and get real emotional about it. Some of us might even go post about it. We might tag the brand and then we'll wait. Madam C.J. Walker had a similar problem, but she didn't wait. She became the brand.
I am Black Success.
Welcome back to the I Am Black Success podcast. I'm Stephen Hart, founder of this show, and today, February 1st of 2026 marks 10 years since we first published on Apple Podcasts as Trailblazers.fm. Our mission was and still is to create a podcast that delves deep into the lives of Black entrepreneurs and leaders in hopes of learning actionable strategies, valuable tactics, and innovative tools that we can put to use immediately on our journey to blazing our trails. Look, this podcast is needed as much, if not more, today in its 10th year than ever before. And so as we kick off this Black History Month, we are doing something a little bit different. For the next 28 days, I'm challenging myself and I'm inviting you to join me as we explore a Black trailblazer in business. Not to hype them, not to romanticize their struggle, and not even to turn history into a highlight reel for Black History Month. I believe Black history is not just something we should admire. It is something I believe we can apply. And today, we start at the root with Madam C.J. Walker. She was born Sarah Breedlove on December 23rd, 1867 in Delta, Louisiana. She is the child of formerly enslaved parents. So when people say she came from nothing, that is not a motivational quote, that is the error. She loses her parents at age 7. She gets married at age 14 and becomes a widow at 20. She's a single mother to her daughter and does what she needed to do to keep life together with domestic labor that does not care how tired she was. She was washing clothes, long days with low pay and no safety net. Madam Walker began experiencing scalp issues and hair loss, which was common among the working class women of that time. Today, that would be a whole storyline. Back then, it's just another problem that you carried quietly while you still had to show up the next day. And here's the pivot. She doesn't complain. She doesn't just say, somebody should make something. She starts studying. She starts to experiment with home remedies. And she learns what works. She pays attention to how products are made, how they're sold, and how people build trust and how people develop distribution. Before she became the brand, she became a student. And that part matters because it tells you the truth about entrepreneurship. Most overnight success is just somebody finally being seen after years of quietly learning. So yes, she created a hair care product, but that is not the full story. That's the part people reduce into a single sentence because it sounds neat. The real genius here was the structure. She started by branding herself Madam C.J. Walker. She created her famed Madam Walker's wonderful hair grower, built it around the system, the Walker system, which combined scalp care, pomade, and hot combing style. She then created a standardized training for a network of Black women to sell her products, and she called them the Walker Agents. She taught these women independence, how to earn, how to save, how to stand on their own. So this wasn't just a beauty company. It was an entire distribution network that reached the United States, the Caribbean, and Central America. It was a training program, an economic engine. Now, here's a moment that I absolutely love. She once goes to a major business convention in 1912, the National Negro Business League. Big names, big energy, the type of room where you can feel who has access and who doesn't. And she wasn't scheduled to speak, but she stands up anyway. Not reckless or rude, just certain. And she tells her story like somebody who understood positioning. She basically says, hey, I came from the cotton fields. I came from the wash tub, and I promoted myself into the business of manufacturing. I want you to think about that. That wasn't just confidence. It was a winning mindset and a business philosophy. She wasn't just waiting around for a title or permission. She didn't wait for anyone to validate her. She promoted herself, and that explains a whole strategy. Here is the lesson we should take from Madam Walker. Ownership creates options, not applause or comfort, options. Because we say we want freedom, but half the time we really want convenience. Madam Walker, she wanted control, and that is a difference. Look, visibility feels good, but ownership feels stable. One gets your attention, the other gets your leverage. So we ought to build a system around ownership, products and services, and create distribution, train our sales force, and reinvest with intention. That's not hustle culture, that's strategy. It's also why her story is more than just a history lesson. I believe it's a bona fide playbook. So by the time Madam Walker passed away in May of 1919, she had built real wealth in a time when everything was designed to keep black women from doing exactly that. But look, the flex wasn't just the money. The flex is what she did with it. She reinvested in her community. She supported black institutions. She understood that wealth is not only what you have, it's what you build for others to stand on. So she didn't just build a business, she built people, she built capacity, she created opportunities. And that is why we started here for this 28-day series. Because black history did not just begin with influence, it began with ownership. So when we talk about Madam C.J. Walker, we're not just talking about wealth, we're talking about ownership and control. And the courage to say, I'm not waiting around for permission. She didn't just build a business, she built a system. And here's the thing to remember. Systems outlive the applause. Black history is not just something we should honor. I want it to be something we apply because success leaves clues. Look, tomorrow, we're going to talk about the woman who built one of the earliest beauty empires in America before most people ever heard the name Madam C.J. Walker. We're going to dive into the story of Annie Malone because sometimes the person who builds a system first is the one history forgets. But not on this show. I'll see you tomorrow for day 2 of 28.